It's 27 minutes after 7 now. As Ghana approaches the 2016 presidential and parliamentary elections, one topical socio-economic issue on the minds of many Ghanaians, besides the high cost of living, is the problem of unemployment and joblessness among the youth. We're all expecting the political parties to say something in terms of how they would address the issue of joblessness and unemployment. On Wednesday, September 28, 2016, the African Center for Economic Transformation, in collaboration with the National Development Planning Commission, will bring political parties and stakeholders together at the Alisa Hotel in Accra to discuss the issue. The dialogue is sponsored by the Include Knowledge platform. We've had this conversation, the first leg of it, even as this dialogue started. And on the second leg, we have another conversation. We want to find out exactly what happened the first time and also ask some questions related to the general economy. Let me introduce my guest to you. Dr. William Boateng is with the Department of Economics, School of Social Sciences, but he's also a senior research fellow. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Can I ask a general question of how many people are unemployed today?
Well, it's difficult to get a figure for today, but as we look at employment data, we normally use surveys. And the last survey that was conducted in Ghana by Tasca Service dates back to 2012, 2013. And unemployment rate among the youth at the time was 13.5%. And 3 years down the line, it wouldn't change much because if you look at the economy and so on, nothing bad has actually happened. No shock, no big shock has actually come up. So we've been on a smooth sail kind of. So 13.5% youth unemployment rate. But let me say that if you open it up to cover those who are not looking for a job, because unemployment has a definition, if you pick it up, you realize that those who are jobless, in other words, they may be jobless but are not looking for a job because they think that, well, the jobs are not there and other reasons. If you pick all of them up, we call them discouraged workers. Then you get
discouraged workers. Okay.
You get the youth joblessness rate at about 35% as of 2013. Okay. So you expect that
3 years on?
3 years on, you should expect it to be around that figure. So it should plus or minus 5 wouldn't be bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
But is the economy as it is now creating jobs? Do you see?
Well, the economy is creating jobs, but not sufficient enough. Now, research that was conducted on how Ghana is responding, how employment is responding to economic growth, and I happen to do that with my former Vice Chancellor, NSIET. We realized that 1% between 1984 and 2013, 1% GDP growth that Ghana records, it gives us an average of 0.5% increase in employment. And when you say employment, all kinds of employment, whether informal, formal, whether vulnerable, whether productive, and so on. So whilst we are growing,
but is that significant?
It's not significant because if you look at the number of people who are coming to the labor market every year, we need to do more than that. And that is why we tend to have the problem that we are having now, joblessness, and especially among the educated. And that is what is happening now. If you break the youth unemployment rate and youth joblessness rate in 2013, and I will focus on joblessness because if you take unemployment then you leave out people who are genuinely unemployed, but because of one reason or the other, and because the structure is not there, the institutions are not there to give them the opportunity to register, they are sitting at home. So when you account for them, you realize that for tertiary, you have youth joblessness rate at about 51%. As of 2013, and that is how the calculation gives you. But when you come down to those who don't have education, it's a bit lower. So when you look at the figure, and of course, if you say plus or minus, and even if it is minus 5%, you still have a problem. And that is something that we think as a country we need to look at it. And ASSET, as a research think tank, and we call ourselves Think and Do Tank, we think that we need to push the agenda of trying to ensure that political parties pick up the issue, discuss with stakeholders, come up with recommendations, and then one of them will form government next year. And then we see that that is a major issue that we need to pick up when we start next year.
Sure. Let me bring you to the issue of those who have education but don't have jobs are a lot more than those who don't have education.
In terms of rate, yes.
Okay. What is it? Is it because I know that I don't have education, so I can take on any other job?
Yes. Yes. I always use this, he that is down in his fear no fall. So if you don't have education or your highest qualification is BEC, and many of the former jobs look at degree or at worst SSC, and you have BEC, you know that formal employment is not your place. So you have something to survive on. You have something to do to survive, and therefore you take up anything. You sell on the street. Something
Anything
to survive.
To survive, you're a hustler.
Exactly. So that is what happens. So for them, you don't have anywhere to turn around, so you have to look at it. But then for those who have education, they don't see the informal economy or the informal sector as attractive, because you've spent money, time to do a college degree, and then you come up and you cannot get a job in the formal sector, let's say teaching, nursing, let's say banking, the media. I know the jobs are not opening up that much, and you don't see the informal sector as attractive. Should I go and just set up something small, or let's say put a table there and sell? You still see that one as unattractive. So for them, they will continue to stay and look for a job, and that is why that rate is high. So they look at the formal sector for employment, and over the years, the formal sector has not been expanding as fast as the number of people who are looking for job in the formal sector, and that is why we have the rate going up. So
would we ever be able to bridge that?
Well, I think we should, if we put up the necessary measures, policies, strategies. We should, of course. Many countries have done that, and of course, you remember in U.S. 2008 recession, but now. They are doing well.
That's one of the things Obama boasts.
Exactly. So it's a matter of putting measures in place to be able to address the issue.
But I think you were sharing earlier about the fact that even there's a way to record the number of people who are looking for jobs.
Yes. In advanced countries, we have institutions that record, let's say employment center. We have them in Ghana, but I don't think they are functioning well, not at all. If I ask you, media, even if you ask,
I don't know.
You don't even
so
know
that's why
employment. Yeah, we have employment centers. You look at the labor law. The labor law set out how employment centers are supposed to be established, both private and public employment centers. And they are, the public ones are affiliated to Labor Department, and because of maybe resources and so on, we don't have them functioning well. You go to the district, you have district labor department with just sometimes not even a computer. So if you are going to look for, you are going to register, and where you are going to register, you can see that they are even struggling. Then you have a problem. So we don't have that. But you go to advanced countries, if you come out from school and you are looking for a job, you need to register. I need to register to be able to benefit from some kind of social programs. Unemployment benefit and so on. So that will force you to go and register. So at every point in time, those who are looking for that. The moment you get a job, then you get out of the list. So you can know those who are looking. So they can calculate it. If it is going to be a lag, it should be about a month or two. But here we don't have the institutions to be able to register. So we always use surveys. So Ghana Statistical Service conducts surveys periodically. We have Ghana Living Standards Survey that has been conducted since 1987. So we have the 7th one, which they are, I think they are, either they are on the field or they are preparing to go to the field. So not until they come out with the findings and the data, you will not be able to get. But by the time they come out, it will have been 6 months or 1 year lag. So you then have unemployment rate being reported 1 year or 2 years or 3 years lag, and that is why we can't get unemployment figures as we sit here. But as researchers, you should be able to do the calculations and get margin of error. I said 5%, 0.5% annual increase in employment against every 1% increase in GDP. So you can use those kind of trend analysis and econometric analysis to be able to do some kind of prediction and get an estimate that will not be too far from reality.
Is this issue of research and getting the right statistics, even with joblessness, did it come up in the first engagements with the political parties?
It came up quite strongly. I remember after my presentation, somebody asked about how the method that we use in doing the calculation and so on. So it came up, and then the data. I think government is concerned about why we don't have employment data on regular basis. Government is concerned about it. And when I say government, I'm not talking about a particular government. I'm talking about government.
As in the states?
In the state, yes, of course. So it is up to us as a state to take it up as a major issue. We can try and reduce the lag. Maybe a year or two will do. Because if the country say, well, I am going to invest in the collection of labor market data every 2 years. Every 2 years. So labor force survey every 2 years. So if there's even 1 year lag, at least it would not be too bad. Because even for GDP, we get it as projected for about 6 months. As at now, we are in the third quarter of the year. But we are talking about GDP growth rate in the first quarter. So there's about 6 months lag. Talking about inflation, we always have about a month or two lag on inflation. So by all means, for data, because when you collect it, you need to process and so on. But for employment, the lag is too long. So we need to close it at least a bit.
So somebody will be wondering, when you engage the political parties and interested parties, what did they tell you? Do you actually buy the things they told you, and are you confident that should any of them take over?
No, we are not buying it. We are providing the platform for us to discuss. And as I said, we had youth groups who were the students, those who have completed and they are still looking for a job. All of them, they will tell you from their perspective the kind of frustrations and challenges they are going through. And then we had employers. Ghana Employers Association was represented by Mr. Alex Frimpong. He also spoke from the perspective of employers, the private sector. And so we even had informal sector operators there. And so we discussed it. We had breakout session, that was 3. We had one that looks at how economic growth can impact on employment. We had skills and education. That is how our training in our tertiary and secondary school will be matched with what the economy needs. And then we singled out agriculture as a very big potential for generating jobs. So there were 3 breakouts. So after discussions, we had some kind of issues and recommendations, and then we presented it. So this is what we are going to discuss in the second one, at least to be able to see the best that can be taken up next year.
We'll continue on that level, but ISE has also come up with these reports, and this time around there was a lot more concentration on education, where there is a verdict, for instance, that the quality of education is eroding at all levels. If you're not properly qualified to take up a position, and I've heard some heads of institutions say this a lot, that what we're teaching in the schools or what is coming out as graduates does not meet the needs in the various institutions.
Okay, let me put it this way. When we say the needs of employers, we have to know what the needs are. Normally, people think that employers are looking for those who have done a particular kind of course
in terms of certificate
and employ them. That is one aspect of it, but there's more to it. And I think they are right. The quality is going down. Now, in training, and of course, if you take universities, we have so many courses. A course like medicine is geared towards a particular kind of labor market activity. So you cannot be trained as an economist like me and become a medical doctor. That is not possible. So straight from the onset, everything that you are doing is geared towards the work that you are going to do. Nursing, the same way. But there are certain courses that are supposed to train the mind, such that when you come out, you should be able to adapt. I don't know your background, but not all media people went into journalism school. Not all of them. But you can have many of them who have done very well sorry to mention somebody like Komla Dumo, who did psychology in Legon, and he was one of the best when it comes to the media. I don't think he went to journalism school, because the training that he got could make him adapt.
Yeah.
So if he moves from media to maybe a business, he should be able to. So that is where we have to look at. But the problem there is that what is the teaching methodology? Is it chew and pour? And that is what normally
You're
happens.
coming from the university,
That's
so
what
you
happens.
tell us.
So it happens from the basic level to the universities. And these days, students, if you ask questions outside what was taught in there, even though you are applying, you have students struggling because of the training they got from the basic and secondary school level. I mean, sometimes you can, let me go into a bit of what I do. I've been teaching economic theory using commodity X and Y and so on and so forth. Students will pick it up easily. But the moment you change it and say, well, the president was on air to talk about the fact that we have to increase fuel prices so that we can get something for the economy. But you tell a story. And the president has said, well, I'm going to also help give the poor, cushion the poor by providing, let's say, free buses for children and so on. What kind of theory have you learned to be able to apply to this? They will not get it. But you've taught in class that there's something we call compensating variation, equivalent variation that you calculate to be able to know that if you put a tax on a commodity and the consumer is going to suffer, how much are you going to compensate others to be able to ensure that they are not affected? They will not get it right. So I don't blame them, because the training at the basic level and secondary school level is just trying to get to the examination room, pass and get your A, and that is it. So we need to look at it holistically. That is it even the 2.5 years, I don't call it 3 years at the secondary school level. Is it enough? Is it enough to be able to let the students learn well, look at other things and so on, to be able to be complete students? So that is something
but is
that we need to.
it for you as a researcher?
For where I sit, it is not. From where I sit, it is not. Sometimes we complain about not having athletes for Olympics, because we can get athletes for Olympics from schools. And if I send my daughter to school and I want him to do well, and we have just 2.5 years, and the syllabus is such that he has to finish within that period, he will not have time to do extracurricular activities.
No way.
Yes. But during our time, the old system, that is the O level, A level, intercolleges was quite crucial. That is why you were able to get talents for Olympic Games. I mean, when it comes to intercolleges, because the syllabus is such that you can finish within 3 or 4 years, so you have about 1 year and so on. You can have intercolleges, you can have singing competition, so somebody can get his talent from singing. So if he is not good, he comes out and he is
so you're
master
developing the other areas of creativity in the person.
But that is not what we are finding now. So when a child goes to school, even when they vacate, you want him to go for vacation classes
we call
to
it
be able
summer
to pick
classes.
it up. To be able to pick it up. So everything is about the book. Everything is about the book to be able to pass and so on. So we need to look at this holistically. And I always ask myself, why should we have 3 years BEC, JHS, 3 years secondary school, and 4 years university? I expect education to be like a pyramid. But now it is a pyramid upside down. So in the university, you don't have that kind of luxury to go into the nitty-gritties that they were supposed to pick it up at the basic level. University, you are matured enough to be able to think. So I'm not going there to teach you
to babysit anybody.
Exactly. And that has been the challenge. And these are the universities, it's about teaching, not lecturing, because you have to teach. Sometimes when you look at...
What's the difference?
Lecturing, you go and sit, you have to make references. Students should be able to even look for documents, going to a library to even search for books is part of the training, and so on. But, sometimes they don't even have the time, don't even know how to even search for documents. It is not in a way that I, as a lecturer, should teach you how you can get this book, you can get this book from here, and so on and so forth. So we need to look at it from a very holistic perspective. Now, I was talking about the fact that you have a lot of people entering the labor market every year, about 400,000 an estimate. Because if you look at, maybe somebody should do a kind of work, and I'll try and do that. Average age of graduates from all universities will be about 22 years. So they enter the labor market at that age. That is, we are talking about the university. Are they well prepared? Well prepared for the labor market. And I'm sure you are here, you also get people to come and do internship. So you should also know. So you cannot prepare them adequately looking at the time frame and looking at what you need to do within the syllabus and so on. So I think we need to look at it from a very holistic perspective. We don't have to rush them. So now we say we've cut the number of years from the old to the new. But what parents are facing is that you take your children through school, they complete, and you have to feed them for about 4 years before they get a job. So the same kind of spending. But you know that they are not prepared. And after, we are parents, we are teachers, and we interact with the students. And we think that we need to do something about the education system.
Is this something that has come up in your dialogue?
Yes.
Okay.
There was one particular breakout session that was skills and education. And that came up quite strongly. And of course, the students have to also take part of the blame. These days, in most of the universities, they have access to the internet, wireless, and so on. Do they make good use of it? I mean, if you have free time, do you go to the internet and read about what happened in the US, about the debate, what Obama said, what Clinton said, what effect does it have on Ghana? But you go there and they are doing other things. I don't want to mention them. And so that is one of the issues. So students should also know that they are developing themselves. And for the unemployed, I mean, if you graduate and then you are looking for jobs, you should also look to do some kind of volunteerism as well. I mean, whilst you are sitting at home looking for a job, you are reducing the number of years God has given you to spend in the labor market. So if you are going to go on pension at 60 and you are 22, and then you stay unemployed for 8 years and you enter the labor market at 30, you've cut the number of years that you are supposed to work.
And save.
Yes, and of course, your pension will be affected. So that time that you are sitting at home doing nothing, try and get yourself busy so that even on your CV, you put it on it that I did this, I did that. As a graduate student, whilst I was at home, I mean, I assemble maybe secondary school and I teach students and I teach them. I mean, do something to be able to, so that you don't waste the time. So on the student side, something that they can do. Well, on government side, I think governments should look at education very well. We always say that investment in education is high. Education takes a chunk of the budget. But I think we don't have to look at the macro figure. We have to look at where the money goes and whether it is serving the purpose for which we are investing in. So we have to look at education as a holistic kind of issue confronting us, and then we tackle it from there. Whilst we are looking at the demand side in terms of economic growth, where growth should come from. I always say that you can grow. Economy is growing. Ghana has been doing quite well. Until recently, we're growing at 7%. We had 14% and so on. Excellent. When the IMF and the World Bank come, they look at the growth figure. But growth is not an end in itself. Growth is a necessary condition, but not sufficient. Because the growth should come from sources that create jobs. I always liken that one to human being. You have to eat, but not all kinds of food are good for your body. So you have to grow, but not all growth is good for employment. So you have to look at where the growth is coming from. Ghana has been growing quite well, from 14%, whatever, and so. So if you look at growth with oil, we are not doing badly. Oil is not bad. It gives us returns. So in the short term, you will not expect the growth effect on employment to be big. But you expect that the returns that come from oil will be invested in areas that will boost growth in the productive sectors of agriculture and manufacturing. That's where the growth is going to come from. But if you get the returns and you don't invest it well, then that is where the long-term effect will be very bad.
So what's the expectation for today at ALISA?
Expectation is that we conceive the recommendation that came up in the first dialogue, discuss with the political parties, know where they are going and whether they can adapt what will come up today as part of the policy that they are going to implement should they come to power.
Do you expect us to hold them to, because I don't want to limit it to you, because you're giving them the platform, I
Yes,
get it.
yes, all of them have to hold them accountable. And as I said, asset is think and do tank. So we do research, we do advisory, and so on. So next year we will try and see how we can collaborate with government to be able to see how those recommendations will be implemented. So we will not just end there. Diplomatically, we will work closely with government.
But do you expect to see it in the manifestos? The NDC's manifesto is already out.
It's
do you
already
expect
out.
it to see in their policies?
I expect some of the issues that came up to be in their manifesto. Remember, we did the first one, and I expect that some of the issues that came up will be in their manifesto. But I think, they will be there. We've invited them. They are a big player when it comes to politics, so they will be there and see how they come. Though that would not be that had not been captured in their manifesto, I know how they can pick it up and then push it.
So you and your colleagues, would you in the end come out and say next year, for instance, that when we did this dialogue, this is what the party said it was going to do, but they haven't done it? Are you going to lead us on a certain course?
Well, ASET does a lot of things. So youth unemployment is one of them. I don't think we can put that. We have to do it in a dialogue kind of form. So as I said, we will do it diplomatically, work with whoever comes to power to be able to see how best we can push.
If they were to follow through with the recommendation, is there a certain percentage that you're hoping that we can reduce joblessness maybe in the next 3 years or that kind of thing?
Well, I can't on top of my head give a percentage. I can't. But I expect that some of the strategies some of the recommendations that came up, and that wasn't the first time. Many kind of research work have been done in this area. Talk about youth unemployment, which a lot of work has been done in that area, and some of these recommendations are in those kind of work. So I expect that when they take it up, at least we should be able to do something for our young people.
Okay. Is there going to be a third dialogue?
For now, no. Maybe we'll think about it as we move on.
Okay. So who can be there at Alisa? I think it's happening at 8:30?
Yes. Key participants, political parties. And then, of course, youth groups, students, selected number of students. And then we have civil society organizations and, of course, the media, because whatever happens there, the public will know through the media.
Okay, so let me ask a question that I'm sure the public, somebody is asking. Do you see real commitments with the people that you're engaging? Well,
as I sit here, I can say that because we are going into election, you see the commitment. And that is why we chose to do it this year. Because everybody is looking for votes and so on, and you have to sell your ideas. So you expect that this time they will come. So the commitment, I have seen it, and I was actually surprised about the turnout in the first dialogue, the political parties, the enthusiasm, and so on. As for commitment to pushing through the recommendation, I think all of us need to put them on their toes. Okay.
Can we have a chat afterwards? Because,
Exactly.
Eager to know exactly what you settled on, the detailed recommendations and
no
things
problem.
like that.
No problem.
But I'm grateful for your time this morning.
Thank
if
you.
people are watching, can they come to Alisa, or this is strictly by invitation?
Strictly by invitation.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. William Babwating, for your time.
Thank you.
This morning. He's a senior research fellow. He's also a lecturer with the Department of Economics, School of Social Sciences, the University of Ghana. Well, we have a conversation with the Most Reverend Professor Emmanuel Asante. He's chairman of the National Peace Council, and that will come up shortly. Stay with us. You're watching the AM show. Still ahead, we've got entertainment just before we wrap up. Yes, please.